We're here today with Paul Sullivan, who is heading up Bias. And Bias is a company that helps, with lead generation and customer acquisition for fast growth product and service companies. A great and very interesting guest for the show today. And basically, they're helping those clients to grow through all the various channels. So, Paul, I'm pleased to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for inviting me on.
Great. So maybe to give, Bias its full justice, like what is it all about in your own words?
So Bias has been probably a 4-year journey. When we first came into business, I had like a really bad branding idea, and the company was actually called ModaWeb, but it wasn't even spelled as ModaWeb. It kind of was spelled as ModaWeb, and I just kind of was never really comfortable for it. Then in 2016, I was on the BBC TV's The Apprentice, and because of the hype around the show and the SEO and the opportunity to be found on search, we kind of moved on to Paul Sullivan Marketing Limited for obvious reasons. But I'm not a massive believer in own name brands, and it works for some people, believe me, but I'm not the best at that. So, I'm not great at putting myself out on social media, but I can do the whole work stuff. And so we had to find something that we felt represented our brand, that would start a conversation, but give people an idea of what it is we do and who we are. And so, Bias can be controversial, but ultimately for us, it means an agency that focuses on marketing automation, and innovation. So we want to be working with innovative companies who are focused on using the right technology in the right place during the funnel stage, as you quite rightly touched upon earlier. And so Bias was born. We are Bias. And so Bias Digital being the company name, often referred to as Bias, we are Bias, and Bias Digital.
Very good. So maybe tell us something about the company so that the listeners can understand the company a bit better. Maybe something like, how many clients you're working with, how many visitors to the page, or, any recognition that you got, something that characterizes the company.
All right. So we have around 30 clients of varying stages of support. Some are, we've just built websites for them. They're not doing any marketing, and so it's just like hosting and updates, and so that's up to them. We're a HubSpot Gold agency partner, so we're definitely an inbound partner for lead generation for product and services companies. We've won 5 awards in the last 4 years. So in 2017, we were Best Inbound Agency London, Best Campaigns the same year. 2018, Best in Inbound Services UK. 2019. 2020, we were, we got 2002.
I have to keep track of.
Yeah, I'm just having a look, because we've got this year. Oh yeah, so last year we were most innovative. This year, most innovative web design agency London, and Best in Web Design 2020. So we just keep chalking them up. So it's interesting to be Biased at the moment.
Very good. Who would you describe are your clients? You mentioned there's about 30, different companies you're working with. Like, what is there like? What would be a typical client?
Yeah. So typically we're working with fast growth subscription companies. So that covers a lot of SaaS, and also we are working in financial services and e-commerce. So B2B marketplaces, e-commerce, B2B e-commerce, and those subscription businesses, which are all very similarly aligned. But it helps us kind of situate ourselves perfectly. We've got a lot of experience, 20 odd years of consulting experience. But the difference between us and a lot of other agencies is that we also have our own accelerator program. So we have a global accelerator partnership with a company called GBI based out in Europe. And we specialize in helping tech companies not only move out of the UK and into Europe and beyond, Asia, Australia, and the States, but also come back the other way. So helping technology companies into the UK. But the unique thing that we do for any of those people that are listening to the podcast that might just be, considering starting their SaaS journey, we can actually fund you from idea. So you don't have to have an MVP. You don't have to have nothing in place. If you've got a decent plan, you've got an idea, we have a panel of people that sit and analyze that and then say to themselves, this is an idea worth investing in. And then there's a journey that we go on with them.
Very interesting. What would you say is currently sort of the main journey or top client acquisition channels that somebody goes through in order to become a client with Bias?
So a lot of the time it's referral, which is luckily for us, but we're using, tools that are tracking companies on the website. We're able to tie that into conversation with people. And, we're fully on board with HubSpot, so sales, marketing, and the website sits on their CMS. So we are on board with that. We've got tools like Lead Feeder up front, which are looking at website arrivals, what companies are on the website, what pages. And so we're tracking all of that with our conversations from our inbound leads.
Very good. And what would you say, which role does the website play in the overall, setup of the client acquisition?
I think that any company that doesn't see the website as the heart of the business, they're completely doing it wrong. I know a lot of companies tend to fix on sales because they see the revenue from there, but ultimately in today's world, those journeys are coming from website, or maybe some social, but even the social is, from an inbound perspective, you're still sharing the content that sits on your blog. So you're still trying to put people back to the website and make those sales conversations happen.
Very good. If we would be talking about your website, right, at the very moment, what would you consider is one of the major strengths of the page? Would it be the ability to convert once somebody's on the page? Is it, the quality of the leads that it can produce, or maybe the experience you can provide? Like, where do you see a strength of the page?
I think the company website's a work in progress. We're looking at having people come into the website and then come from offline channels. So often someone will refer us, companies are coming onto the website, then coming back for an email that someone else is introducing to us. But, generally, if we talk about what we're seeing with our clients, a lot of this stuff comes from the website, right? It's the quality blog posts. It's the ability to kind of open up. And one of the practices we have here with our clients is beyond the landing page, right? So yes, forms do play a part in the marketing campaign, but having 10,000 people's emails in a list and being unable to do anything with them just looks really skewed in the metrics. So what we say is there's another platform we use called Drift, and they've got it's a chat bot, so it's the sales enablement part from the website, and they've also got some chat landing pages. So we're encouraging people to put the PDFs into chat landing pages so that if people are really ready to buy, your sales team are able to see what's going on and literally just jump in when someone's reading. They can see how many pages they've gone through and give all that great stuff. So we're really trying to build open funnels as opposed to closed funnels.
Yeah. Very good. And if you stick a little bit to the website, where would you see is the biggest room for improvement, maybe for Bias's page by itself?
Yeah,
like, where do you see the biggest room for improvement?
Definitely more room for more forms. Even though I've just told you not to do them, I think there are inquiry forms, but if you go with a form only process, you're definitely going to lose people. A lot of the time it's who's available to me now when I actually don't want to send you an email and I don't want to call you, but I still need you to make it easy for me to communicate. So, for us, Lead Feeder does tell us which companies, but most certainly there's no granularity to that, right? It's not telling us, there's Bob Holmes at Oracle sitting there and coming to us. And so what we're always looking for is the data that enables you to see more about who's engaging and how, because that's what's important.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So if we would be coming back to your product, right, or your services rather, for everybody listening in, what would you say is the main competitive advantage?
I think for us, we focus on innovation. A lot of agencies out there are focusing on the content, and it's great. And all of us as inbound agencies can execute content-led campaigns, right? Is it really the most enthusiastic part of our day? No, because we like to do the part where, for example, we're working with a data science company, and we were going through their content strategy with them and looking at checklists that we can put in. Checklists are great, but it would be better if the checklist was converted to a small interactive platform on a subdomain that was far more useful for their personas, right? So the journey we mapped out is, how does a CTO or a head of analytics go to their board and say, right, I need a data scientist. You know, how do we assess it? Got a checklist, that's great. But if you create a tool, it gives a sense of being a leader to the user. And then there was another tool behind that that helps you actually answer questions to build out what your map should look like should you embark on a process. So we like to do that part of it, even though we still do the creative part, and that's where we win, and that's why we've won the awards for our campaigns and stuff like that, because it's where we go that extra mile and dig that bit deeper and focus more on the end user as opposed to it's just focusing on the content production.
Very good. If we would be looking behind the curtains of Bias, like how would you say is the sales and marketing structured at the moment?
So we've got 2 salespeople, like for sales focused people, even though I'm involved in that sales process, I'm still rolling my sleeves up and getting involved everywhere. That's kind of my enthusiasm in that. And I think that's what draws my energy. I think that's actually why I've got an agency business, that I don't go and just work with one person. I like the variation and the constant different needs. So we've got 2 people in sales, there's 2 of us in marketing, and we've probably got 7 or 8 partnerships. So we do work collaboratively with other agencies, and we do this really, really well. We've got long-term partnerships. We're not going on to Fiverr or Freelancer or whatever these websites are. You know, we're most certainly not going to be in a race to the bottom on pricing because of the quality that we deliver. And so, you know, we're quite open with that, and I think that forms part of Bias. You know, why you work with us is because of the enthusiasm, because of the focus on innovation, and trying to help you outgun the competition.
Got you. Since you mentioned pricing there, what would be typical, a typical pricing structure that somebody would have to expect it when working with Bias?
Yeah, I think what we try to get to is a points-based system. I don't know if you've heard of it, Lucas, but a lot of agencies are using it now. And so how we work to get to the pricing is probably the right question. And how we always work is there's this upfront piece of work, which is kind of learning and strategy. So, you know, let's say, you know, there's a higher percentage of people that come in because there's holes or gaps in what they're doing, whether that's on marketing or sales. And so we map all this out, and then we kind of build the workflows. Then, you know, we're using HubSpot. So a lot of these guys are coming onto HubSpot with us. We build out all the automation, whether that's in sales or marketing. And when we've done all that, what we do is we sit back and we work out what assets has the company got. So we're talking human capital here, not terms of digital assets. And where do we need to fit in? And then once we've worked that out, we then are able to say that based on what your need is, you probably need X amount of points. Roughly think that it's £100 a point to a degree, it's not quite accurate. And an average retainer with us looks around £5.5 grand a month.
Okay, very good. Maybe last question, since we were talking about sort of, how marketing and sales is working, before we, start learning about you personally a little bit more. What would you say? How is the lead handled at the moment? You mentioned HubSpot a couple of times. If somebody's signing up on the website with us, what happens?
So, what we're doing is someone signs up for an ebook or something, that they get their details go into the CRM. They're entered into a workflow, and then what we're trying to do is track their further activity on blog posts, interacting with emails, and score the prospect on that activity within the funnel. We have a couple of systems that talk to each other, so we're able to track if someone comes out and comes back in through an ad or something like that. So yeah, we're definitely lead scoring. But yeah, it's pretty much what you would expect. It's workflows, automation, until at such point a salesperson needs to get involved.
Very good. Let's switch gears and talk about you as a leader in the team. What would be sort of a topic maybe that you recently would have researched yourself?
So I'm a constant learner, and up here, although you can't see it, I put 2 shelves in at the beginning of the year, and there is probably, I would say there's at least £400 or £500 worth of books on that shelves now. Mainly business development, sales, a lot of value proposition design, business model analysis, that kind of stuff. I think that what we started to realize with our clients was that agencies can sometimes fall into the trap of just listening to what they're told and making decisions based on what they're told. So it's not saying that they're not doing research and not coming in and digging deeper, but often if you think about it, company starts up 4 or 5 senior leaders later, there's a mishmash of what this company was supposed to be doing. There's a sales goal and a marketing goal, obviously, but we try to break down the business model, bring it back to its core elements and see if they're still aligned with that. So yeah, one of the great books I've read this year was Radical Candor. I don't know if you know the book, but it's a good book about company culture and being frank and open and having management responsible to the junior staff as much as the junior staff are responsible to management. So that's something we're keen to expand. And D&I, I think that's a hot topic for everybody at the moment.
Very cool. Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview, I would like to jump into our rapid fire questions. It's a couple of short and crisp question and answers. You ready for those?
Sure, let's go.
What's the one single thing your company is focused on the most at the moment?
The website.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be one thing you want to have fixed for your company today?
There is no boundaries. What would I want fixed? Gosh. I think more transparency and visibility. Really, yeah.
And what's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Oh gosh. I think the website's kind of my little bugbear at the moment, from a design purpose as well.
And the very last question, if today would be your very first day working on bias, like what would be the advice that you would give yourself?
Be easy. Like I'm not really forgiving of myself. I'm really judgmental and I'm hard with myself, and I think I need to be a little bit easier, and I don't celebrate wins. Like those awards up there are kind of a bit like, right, I got that one, next, and I need to maybe sit and absorb and accept that you're doing a good job.
Paul, I really appreciate that you took the time today to spend with us in the Platform Presents show. I want to give you the last word. What's one thing everybody should remember about bias?
Well, remember this, it's not about us, it's about you.
Very good. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks for having me on.